Trump was indeed hit where it hurts by China. When I woke up, I almost lost control of my emotions. China treats others the way they treat them. A shocking blow to the White House. When China announced restrictions on key rare earth-related technologies, implement export controls, and cited national security grounds for the first time, when imposing long-arm jurisdiction over global supply chains, Washington's reaction was far more violent than expected, especially U.S. President Trump himself. After U.S. President Trump woke up, post an angry post of 1,000 words on your own social media. Emotions so strong that they almost lose control. He said China's behavior was very strange and full of hostility, and ridiculously linking rare earth controls to the Gaza ceasefire agreement. Achieve a forcible association, questioning whether it is actually a coincidence. It's as if China is deliberately trying to convince itself that its historic mediation has, as the 2025 Nobel Peace Prize is expected to be decided. Slap him in the face while his dream of the Nobel Peace Prize is shattered. On one side is China's rare earth counterattack. Under a double blow, Trump completely broke his defense. For a long time, the United States has used national security, using the Export Administration Regulations and Entity List, implement technological blockade on Chinese companies, and coerce allies to cut off the supply of chip equipment to China. The core of its logic is long-arm jurisdiction. Even if the transaction does not involve U.S. technology or territory, as long as you use U.S. dollar settlement or Korean and American ingredient, can be sanctioned. Now, for the first time, China is countering with the same logic. According to the export control law of the People's Republic of China, for rare earth silver chain separation, processing and magnet manufacturing, implement license management throughout the chain, and send letters to global buyers explaining the scope of controls. This means that even if a company of a certain country does not produce in China, as long as its products rely on Chinese rare earth materials, need to be reviewed by China. This is exactly what Trump didn't expect. He believes that only the United States can define national security. Only Washington can wield his long arm. Nowadays, China treats others the same way they treat others. Precisely strike against the U.S. military industry, which is the core industry of rare earth swimming pools in China. Catch him off guard. In the long article, Trump declared, "The United States also has a monopoly, and more powerful than China," while admitting it never used these tricks before, exposing the nature of its strategic bluff. In fact, although the United States has rare earth mines but lacks complete chain and separation capabilities, rare earths mines still have to be sent to China. The so-called double reserve is purely a politicized number. What's even more ironic is, just days before China announced restrictions, U.S. House of Representatives Special Committee on China report just released. It is recommended to further tighten semiconductor equipment exports to China. This kind of double-standard logic only allows Zhou Guan to set fire. Now completely exposed by China. Faced with Chinese countermeasures, Trump threatens immediately and significantly increase tariffs on Chinese goods, and threatened to stop importing a large number of products from China. However, the market's reaction to this was extremely cold. As soon as the news comes, U.S. stocks inverted and plummeted nearly 500 points. The S&P 500 lost more than $1 trillion in market value instantly. Investors know China today is no longer 2018. Global supply chains are deeply intertwined. Forced decoupling will only exacerbate inflation. Impact on American consumers. More importantly, China's countermeasures are not an isolated action. Instead, we have to work with the Ministry of Transport on the U.S. propaganda campaign against China. Reciprocal retaliation for imposing high port fees is simultaneously advanced, forming a dual-line counterattack of technology and logistics. This systemic countermeasure capability marks the Sino-US game, has shifted from passive defense to proactive rule-shaping. Trump's rant. Essentially a slap in the face of the collapse of American exceptionalism. Past decades. The United States is accustomed to thinking of itself as a rulemaker, imposing unilateral sanctions on other countries without allowing resistance. Now China not only dares to fight back, use the most familiar legal tools in the United States, and strategic language to fight back. This has a more psychological impact than simply cutting off communism. This is not just a tariff war or a tech war between China and the United States. It is enough to decide the trend of Sino-US relations, and even the rules war for the direction of global development. The battle of strength and determination. China passes export control law. Legal weapons such as anti-foreign sanctions laws build an institutional basis for reciprocal countermeasures, declaring the end of the era of unilateral bullying. Trump may still be immersed in. The United States is far ahead in the fantasy of being powerful. But the real world no longer cooperates with his script. History is witnessing. When a rising power learns, treat others with their own evil ways. In front of hegemons. When defending one's own interests, the cracks in the old order can no longer be reconciled. And Trump's angry rants. Nothing can be changed in front of the wheel of history.